Hello again. It is Instructor Driver again, and this is going to be our hopefully quick run through of the syllabus just to familiarize yourself with what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and all those important fun things. Um, it looks like this. It's posted also by the point in time that you see this video. I should have sent it to you, so if you want to actually go through it line by line, or print it out and read it yourself. That's all wonderful. I think it's an excellent thing. I definitely think you need to be familiar with it because it's basically that operating contract between you, me, the School of Liberal Arts, and Georgia Gwinnett itself. Oh, and the history department. Keep forgetting there's that fifth unit in there. Your acceptance of the contract comes by remaining in the course. You don't actually have to sign anything. It's just a matter of we need to make sure that we are all on the same page, literally, about what we're doing. So I'm going to take a minute or two or 20 and run through the syllabus for you. So the syllabus will apply to all three of the history sections that I'm teaching this semester. Sections 3, 16, and 17, all of which are online. This is me. And this is how to get in touch with me. Obviously, I am online, so I don't have an actual physical office at GGC. I actually live in South Carolina. The best way to get in touch with me always is through email. That also gives us a nice clean record so that if there are ever any problems or misunderstandings, we can go back and trace the history of the communication through it. If, however, you want to actually talk to me in real time, the best way to do that is probably through a Zoom meeting. If you watched my video from a little while ago about navigating the Brightspace D2L page, then you know that there's a Zoom link in the banner across the top of each of our Brightspace pages. So we can set up through there. I check my email regularly. It's on my phone, it's on my iPad, it's on my computer. It lives with me. For the most part, I will get back to you as quickly as I can, usually within 24 hours, sometimes if it's early enough in the day, in the same day itself. I will tell you, though, that the USG system, University System of Georgia, is adamant about not accepting any emails or opening any emails that come from anywhere other than a USG institution. So if you are emailing me, it must come from your GGC email. Otherwise, I am not allowed to respond to it. You should always, during the course of your day, check my courses because we are an asynchronous course, meaning we do not have a specific time each week to meet. You're still expected to log in to your My Courses page and to our page pretty much every day. And as you'll see from the schedule, there are a couple of days you can get by without it, but then for the most part, since most of what you're going to be reading is going to be accessed through the web page, it's usually easier to just go ahead and log in. And of course, I will have a recording of every time you've logged in when I go to check the class list. So you want to kind of keep up with what we're doing on a daily basis. Technology, of course, because this is online, you're expected to have access to a computer. If you are actually at the GGC campus, of course, you know that there are computer rooms in pretty much every major building that you can use. There's Wi-Fi everywhere, so you can use your own computer if you have it. If you don't have a computer of your own, then obviously you're going to need to be in one of the computer rooms, the Grizzly Den or the library or whatever is in B and C. I do know that they do have computer rooms in all of the main buildings. Expectations of you. You have the computer that you will access your materials through My Courses or Brightspace by Desire to Learn D2L, that place where all of our courses are. And you're expected to check your email regularly, at least twice a day for our purposes. Like I said, I will be emailing you when I need to, when I have videos, when I have explanations of things you need to know, when I have general comments to the class as a whole, or specific comments to you as a student when I return things to you. So all of your assignments will be completed and submitted through Brightspace. in the either drop boxes that are under the assignment tab or in the discussions themselves, which are under the discussion tabs. So our basic information, this is History 1111, World Civilizations 1. These are we have a 3 credit hour thing. It is online, asynchronous, and again, accessible through the online thing. Again, Zoom if necessary. And if enough of you want to get together to do a synchronous meeting every now and then where I can open it up to the class, email me, let me know, we'll set up something. It will not be required because I can't make it required because we're designed to be asynchronous, but we can try to set it up so that the maximum number of people who want to come can come. With that in mind, though, you will be having 2 exams in this class. It will be a midterm and a final, and to do those, you will need the Respondus Lockdown browser, and the Respondus Monitor. And these are the links right here to access instructions for how to set up those 2. They will be required for taking the midterm and for taking the final. So what are we doing? Well, we have a survey of world history from the beginning of humankind to effectively the early modern world of the early 1600s, basically, as I like to term it, when Europe explodes over the rest of the world, or when we get into what many historians refer to as globalization 2.0. So your prereqs for this are English 989, effectively meaning you need to be able to read a book, which is good because you will be reading a lot in this course. I will not lie to you or hide it from you. This is a very intensive reading and writing course, mostly because it is online. And I don't have any way to make it so that you process the information other than for you to submit to me discussions, as it were, of the information. So, your required text. You are required to have one of the following textbooks, not all of them. You can have the first volume of Ways of the World with Sources by Strayer and Nelson, which is the one I think the bookstore will have in stock if you are buying a hard copy book from GGC. If I'm fortunate and they actually have maintained the request that I put in, they'll also have the von Sivers, Denoyer and Stowe Patterns of World History with Sources, Volume 1, and I'm emphasizing the Volume 1 because this is the first half of world civilizations, which means its time period is, again, from the beginnings of humanity up to 1600. So be sure if you're picking up a hard copy volume, you're looking at the dates on it. And I know that sometimes the bookstore has this one as well, Traditions and Encounters by Bentley, which is actually, I believe, up to the 7th edition. I don't care which edition you have as long as it isn't one of the past 2 or 3. You can get used copies of those books if you go with, well, like the Ways of the World. There actually is a 5th edition. If you get the 4th or the 5th, that's fine. Earlier, 3rd or 4th is fine. The same with Patterns of World History or with the Bentley. Anything earlier than the one that you have to pay full retail for is fine. Mainly because, as I mentioned in the video about navigating our Brightspace page, we have these 2, Cordis and Berger. These are both available for free online. You just have to be able to have access to them. Now, I believe that you can also download them. I believe there are PDFs of both of these books that you can download if you want to have it on your iPad or your phone or some other thing that you can read it with. But also they are available online. So I'm actually going to go right now and show you what each of these books looks like. Starting here, this is the newest version, 5th edition of Ways of the World by Strayer and Nelson. And when I refer to them, being an historian, I'm going to refer to them by the authors' names. In this case, when you see it, it'll be Strayer and Nelson, von Sivers, Bentley, because that's the way we in history do. We refer to authors because they're the people who have done all the hard work of writing. This is what Ways of the World Volume 1 looks like. Notice here it says with sources, and by this we mean primary sources. Patterns of World History looks like this, Volume 1 with sources again. This is up to a 4th edition. The one I have listed on the thing is 3rd edition. Again, I don't care which one you use as long as it is one that has sources if you're using a hard copy. Traditions and Encounters, as I said, up to the 7th edition, but you can use a 5th or a 6th as long as you've got the first volume of it discussing the periods we're talking about. But if you're looking for the free ones, this is the Cordis et al. At OpenStax. It's wonderful in much the same way that our web page operates. Its table of contents is located here on the left. When you click on any of the chapters, you're going to have to start with the introduction, which is why when I have it listed, I say read the entire chapter starting with the introduction. I'm going to link you to the introduction so that you can get to that. But yeah, you're just going to click on each of those little arrows. It's going to bring it down and show you what's in each of those chapters, etc. Right? All right, and then the Burger book at OpenALG, same kind of thing. You can click on the Start Reading. It's going to open you up here. Its contents are up here, and it's going to bring you down with the chapters again on this left-hand side. So, all right, so those are the 5 textbooks of which you only need one. You only need one. Please do not say to me, oh, I can't get them all. Well, no, you're not supposed to have them all. You're supposed to have one. Now, there are other sources we will be using. Peter Frankopan's The Silk Roads, which is available at archive.org, free copy. I've got it linked in each of the weeks that you need to read a chapter out of it. The link is going to take you to the table of contents. And on that table of contents, you click on the chapter that you need to read, and it will take you to that chapter. Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. I have PDFs of the sections you need to read of it available and linked in each of the weeks that you need to do that. Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel, also available at archive.org. You only need specific chapters out of that, so I will have those linked again in the weeks that you need them. You don't have to buy these. Like I said, I have provided you the parts that you're going to need to read accessible on our course page. If anything else comes up, I'll also link it in the week that it's required. For the most part, though, I have everything already set in place. The only thing would be if we change something up or if something big happens and I want you to have some access or information about it, then I'll do that. Your course outcomes: locate, analyze, differentiate, and interpret primary and secondary source data. That's what all of the primary source analysis papers are for. The geography is, for our purposes, going to be very broad. I can't really test you on geography, but instead we'll be talking about the way civilizations develop and interact locally, and then a little more broadly geographically until we get to actual globalization in its entirety, which pretty much happens, well, some historians argue around 1000. Most historians still adhere more to the late 14, early 1500 period as the point in which the Western Hemisphere gets brought much more conclusively into the world trading and political and socioeconomic patterns. Number 3, demonstrate understanding of how human interaction with nature has shaped history. Very big deal today, in case you're paying attention to all the weird weather we're having now. And of course, demonstrate a broad knowledge and select mastery of key people, trends, and events in world history. So these are all the basic things that we're going to be looking for, and all of those are built into both the discussions, the primary source analyses, and of course your exams as well. All right, I have set the grading book up for you. It will give you your adjusted grade, meaning your current grade based on what you have submitted, versus your final grade, which is when everything should have been submitted. So you'll have both there to be able to see. Grading scale, straightforward. You get 11 potential points for an A, 90 to 100. And then your basic 80 to 89 for a B, 70 to 79 for a C. And we prefer not to think about the D and F points. I assume you're all going to be doing the maximum you can to get the grade that you want, right? All right, how I'm grading. There are 13 discussion forums set up at the moment, even though we have 14 weeks. I'm still debating about what I'm going to do about the last week. Traditionally, what I do with that week 14 is to give you something that can be used as extra credit, but I'll consider that as I go along. I only count the top 10 of your 13 discussions, and there's a method to that madness. Part of that method is, of course, the fact that the first couple of weeks, as you are learning what I want out of a discussion, your grades tend to be lower. It takes a while to actually get to the point of being able to integrate all of the required sources and make a good formal argument using historical examples to support it. So I only count your top 10. That gives you a couple of weeks to play with to get in the groove. I also allow for the fact that you may be sick one week and may not be able to get into a discussion, in which case that's fine. I also we've got the 4 primary source analyses and the midterm, all of which are given while we're active. So if there's one week that you'd rather focus on one of those than on the discussion itself, then that can be one of your drop weeks. I encourage you not to do that if you can avoid it, though, simply because there is so much to do. And you really want to have the ability for me to pick your top 10 grades to use for that final calculation. Your primary source analyses are 8% each for a total of 32%. Your one midterm is 13% and your final is 15%. So this is where it all comes out with that. I do have extra credit options that we'll see as we go along. Late work, and I need for you to be very attentive to this. Please understand there are legitimate reasons for things to be late. If you get sick, particularly during the week when we have discussions due, if you have an accident, if there's an emergency, any of the things that normally count as a viable excuse for lateness, I will accept as long as you let me know before the deadline. Do not wait until it's Sunday to email me and say, oh, yeah, I forgot to email you and let you know that blah and such happened. I'm like, no, have enough respect for me and for your classmates, because they have to respond to you and you have to respond to them with the peer responses. Have enough respect for everyone in the class to let me at least know why something is late. If it's a valid reason, I will not count off for it. But if it's a not valid reason, I forgot, I overslept, football was on, I had a date, blah, blah, blah. No. That's 10% per day for up to 3 days. And again, a lot of that is because your classmates are depending on you as well, so that they will have something to which to respond to discuss. So 10% per day, up to 3 days, after which I reserve the right not to accept it at all. If you post after the deadline completely, top posts for discussions are due on Thursday. You need to respond to 3 of your peers over 3 different days between Thursday and Monday, which means you can still do Thursday, Friday, and Monday and still have your 3 days. If you don't want to work on the weekend, that's fine. You still have 3 possible days, but it needs to be 3 different days with substantive peer comments. But at midnight on Monday night, that discussion forum closes. If you haven't responded to your peers, it's too late, unless you have a legitimate reason, in which case I will extend for you alone the option to respond. But again, I've got to know before the deadline or as close to the deadline as possible. All right, there you go. Same thing covered here, discussions, the responses. People look at them and go, well, it's only 4% of my total grade to do a discussion. That's absolutely right, but you'd be amazed how quickly that 4% adds up when you don't submit them. And when they're late, because again, 10% per day, that's a lot if you don't get them in on time. And also the fact that if your peer comments, the total each week is 1.5 for your peer comments, but they need to be substantive. As in, you need to include some history and some information from the sources, things that are different from what you put in your top post and that are different from what other people are saying as well. That stuff needs to be substantive. It needs to be on 3 different days, again, between Thursday and Monday. So your primary source analyses, again, 4 of those, which means there's one approximately every 3 weeks. For the first one, I will provide you with primary sources from which to pick, but for the 3 after that, you've got to find your own. So bear that in mind, be thinking about what a primary source is and how you would go about looking for one. Midterm and the final are both timed tests. On each of those, you'll have components of long answer and short answer questions. You'll have 2 hours for the midterm, 3 hours for the final. You will be allowed to use your books and your notes, but you must cite. So be sure that you are very familiar with how to cite by the time we get to that midterm and final, because if that's not cited, it's a 0. I will not read anything that you have not put citation in. So APA citation is required for everything, discussion posts included, go through Turnitin. So be sure you understand about copying and pasting and making sure that all quotes are both in quotation marks and cited. Yes, indeed. All right, so here's our general outline, and this mirrors, you're going to see the same thing when you look at your D2L page on the content. It's going to have these same titles, it's going to have the same weeks. The only distinction here is that I've actually laid it out for you in form. When everything's due, your first primary source analysis is due September 4th, which again, Labor Day, yes, I know, but you've known since day one it was due, so you can turn it in anytime that week you want to turn it in. You do not have to wait until Labor Day itself to submit it. You can submit it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, anytime you want in that week, right? Second primary source due on the 25th of September. Midterm due by midnight of Sunday, October the 1st. I'll have specific instructions on how we're doing that I'll give you sometime in week 7 or in week 6, actually, give you a little time to work on it. Primary source 3 due by midnight on October the 16th, Monday. Same thing, primary source 4 due by midnight on November the 6th. And then we're into this period. Your final itself will be due by midnight, December the 10th during the exam week. Final grades have to be posted. Well, I have to have them graded and ready by December the 12th. So that's part of the reason why I give you till December the 10th at midnight to do it. That gives me a day and a half to grade them. But also, if there are any problems, if you're on a borderline grade, like if you are at a 79, I'll email you and say, look, you need 1 point to get to the B. What can we do to get you there? What can you redraft? But in order to do that, I got to have time to do it. So you need to keep up, and I'm going to say this now, I'll try to repeat it many times during the course of the semester, keep up with emails from me during that exam week, because I want you to get the grades you want to get. And if you're on a borderline and you want to get to that next letter point, then I want us to be able to do that. So, all right, so our important dates, classes begin August the 14th, surprise, hence the reason you're seeing this video. You have 1 week, literally, to decide whether you want to stay in the class. Drop add period ends on August the 20th. After that, you are committed to the class. Midterm grades are due October the 5th, and then you have until 5 o'clock on October the 10th to decide if you want to stay in the course. Now, the W day, for those of you who are new, effectively means that you drop the course, you don't have a failure for the course, it's a W. It means that you attempted it, but decided you didn't want to finish it. That's all well and good, except that most schools only allow you so many withdrawals from the same course, so bear that in mind. You don't want to have too many W's over the course of your entire academic career. You certainly don't want to have too many over the course of one course. November 19th to 26th, Thanksgiving break. December the 4th is the last day of classes, and then we roll straight into the exam week, December 5th through the 11th. As I said, our final will be due by midnight on the 10th so that I have time to grade. And if semester grades are due by 5 p.m., commencement, if you're a graduating senior, this is relevant to you, is December the 14th. For everybody else, grades will be available in Grizzly Den within Banner on December the 18th. As with all things, I reserve the right, if something happens, if we have some other pandemic breakout or some other major catastrophic event or whatever, I reserve the right to alter the course as necessary. More likely to happen if something comes up and we're having a lot of trouble with some particular element or idea, then I reserve the right to switch things up and around a little bit as I need to. Hopefully I won't have to. I like having my course planned out already, knowing where I'm going, and I assume that most of you would prefer that as well. All right, so this part right here is basically School of Liberal Arts information. What the School of Liberal Arts is designed to do. We wanted to use a lot of cross-disciplinary teaching, research and service as part of what we're doing. And you'll see, I use a lot of interdisciplinary stuff in here. And in fact, this whole first section, we're going to be dealing with a lot of archaeology and anthropology because this course starts literally before history. Now, let me clarify that. History, of course, means writing. History is basically starts when people start writing things down. And because a huge chunk of what has happened to humanity occurred during that period when we were still developing into humans, that's not technically history, but we're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be talking about why people begin to settle down and create agriculture and doing all the things that will eventually lead to collectivization and the creation of what we refer to as civilization. That also takes thousands of years. A lot of the information we have on that period comes by way of archaeology and anthropology. So we're already starting out with an interdisciplinary approach, but we'll continue to be using that throughout the course itself. Also, a lot of science. The integrated educational experience goals, these things that they want you to come out of this course with. The ability to clearly demonstrate ideas in written and oral form. The idea to demonstrate creativity and critical thinking in a multidisciplinary context. And by that, well, for here, we're going to be talking mostly about writing and discussing things with each other. Intercultural awareness, we focus on all those wonderful areas of the world because, of course, civilizations start in specific areas and grow and grow and grow and get larger as populations get larger and trade expands and more conquering happens. So, but in each of those localized areas where things start, there are basic cultural developments that maintain and spread throughout those areas. So we'll be talking a lot about that. And produce scholarly or creative works that reflect information literacy, knowledge, skills, and dispositions. Number 5 is a big one. That's a big part of what we're going to be doing in discussing these ideas with each other, also writing about them, and then also writing with your primary source analyses. So, academic integrity and the use of Turnitin. As I just mentioned, I use Turnitin for everything. In this online world, it's virtually impossible not to get ideas from other places. Unfortunately, and I say this mostly because you guys are young enough that you've probably done very little actual handwriting. Everything is done on a computer. But the problem with that is that it is so easy to literally select information, copy it, turn around, paste it right into a document without even actually being aware of it. A lot of that's a motor control issue, and unfortunately that also is an issue that can come into play with plagiarism. You must not only put those copied and pasted things into quotation marks, but you must also cite immediately after them. So yes. Thus, citation in APA is mandatory for anything that's a direct or partial quote, must be in quotation marks, must have the citation immediately after it. If you paraphrase, if you read something that you like, but you then turn around and put it in your own words, you must still cite immediately after it because it's someone else's ideas, even if it's in your own words. And you must also cite when something is what is called uncommon knowledge. Now, this is a iffy, problematic kind of thing because we like to think that if we're reading it, then other people are reading it, so it must be common to them as well. But that's not the case, particularly in a history class. As a pointed note, anytime you use a date, it's almost always uncommon knowledge and must be cited. Anytime you use a number, it's almost always uncommon knowledge. If you're using a percentage, or if you're using a statistic, or if you're using like a count, there were were 5 armies that were fighting in this particular thing. Yeah, you're going to have a citation there simply because people don't retain numbers. Numbers are very uncommon in most people's memory capacity. So at the end of everything you submit, discussion posts, peer responses, yes, your peer responses, your primary source analyses, you must also have a reference page or a works cited page where you list in alphabetical order by the author's last name or the creator's last name, all the sources that you're using. And I'd like to point out, if you pay attention, I've already given you in almost everything the initial function of your works cited source. So it's really not that difficult. All right, examples of plagiarism: directly quoting another person's words without appropriate citation and punctuation. It is not enough just to cite it. You got to have those quotation marks around it because that tells me, the reader, that you're using their words exactly. Not only their idea, but their words. Overusing quotations. You can't just put together a discussion response that is a string of quotes from different sources. You got to have your own original work in there, your own original idea that connects these quotes as well. In fact, on a Turnitin scale, you should have no more than 30 to 35% of your paper in quoted works. Everything else should be either paraphrases, but also your own ideas as well. And again, paraphrasing, you got to, again, give credit. If the idea came out of the textbook, you got to have that citation in there. Submitting assignments and other work that are not your own. Please, please, please don't go to places like Course Hero. Don't go to your friends who have taken this course before and get that work. Don't go to one of these paper mills and buy this stuff. If it is not your own work and you submit it as such and I run it through Turnitin and Turnitin matches it to something else, that's an immediate 0. And that's your first warning. You only have 2. The second time I find that you're plagiarizing or stealing or using somebody else's work as your own, I'm putting you before the disciplinary board because I don't cotton to that at all. Citing primary and secondary sources incorrectly. I'm not a stickler. I mean, most of you are freshmen or sophomores. You're still learning the whole citation methodology. In plain, simple form, all citation should be in the form of author, title, date, location. Author, title, date, location. A web link is not a citation. It is a location. Please do not use a web link and expect that to pass as a cite. It's not. You still have to have the author, the title, and the date before that web link. It's more significant to me that you're honest without where the source came from. One of the reasons we put that there is because a lot of people like to go to places like Wikipedia, actually use the information from the Wikipedia page, but cite instead one of the references in the Wikipedia page as the citation. No, don't do that. That's lying to me. First of all, you shouldn't be using Wikipedia. I would like to say that you could. I'd like for Wikipedia to be a valid source, but it's not. It's still open source. Anybody can go in and change it. So, I mean, I know that they're trying to get tighter about who can and can't change entries, but until it gets to the point that every entry actually has to have a professional's name on it or an actual legitimate creator, until we get to that point, then Wikipedia is not a valid source. Neither is Difference Between or About.com or Quora or any of the open sources where just anybody can go in and answer or post something. You need to have something reputable and something academic. So be sure that you cite accurately where you're using it. Be sure that you're not trying to basically commit fraud by passing off information and telling me you got it from somewhere that you actually didn't get it from. So. All right, other examples of academic dishonesty: submitting the single assignment for multiple courses. This is what we refer to as recycling. Don't do that. Or if you want to, if you've used something before and you think it'll work with this, email me first and ask me if it's okay to do it. I'm actually okay with it as long as it's actually relevant to the course. Just let me know first or ask me first and let me see what you're working with. Using assignments submitted by other students, again, this is patently cheating. Using materials acquired from Course Hero or other sites where you can purchase answers or papers patently fraudulent. Um, Using unauthorized materials during exam, patently fraudulent. So all of those are ways in which to get a 0 very quickly and a warning. The second time you do it, you get a failure for the course, and I submit you to the Academic Integrity Committee. So other student resources, the Academic Enhancement Center, Circle In, which is a virtual study support app. I think it's a really good idea. Again, though, you can't write papers collectively through it. You can, though, discuss ideas through it, which I'm fine with. All right. CAPS, a very nice confidential space. If you're having trouble, please talk to those people. They're really, really good at what they do. The Dean of Students, if you're having other big problems, home, food insecurities, medical issues, anything like that, get in touch with the Dean of Students to see if there's any help. Disability services, you do need to talk to them. If there are legitimate reasons why you need extended time in the course, you have to talk to them and get a waiver from them that you then give to me. They don't contact me directly, you do, but I have to have something signed off by them. And of course, the good old Kaufman Library, one of my favorite places on campus. I do love that. Gilfine, the library catalog, all of these are really great. Galileo is a wonderful, wonderful place to go to look for primary sources as well, or secondary sources, depending on what you need. Again, our academic integrity statement. There you go. Academic dishonesty carries severe penalties ranging from a grade of 0 on the affected assignment to dismissal from Georgia Gwinnett College. Yes, we take academic integrity very, very, very seriously. Academic respect, again, we're going to have discussions. So respect your students. Respect that they're counting on you, again, in these discussions, just as I am. It's not really all about me. It's all about the people that you are discussing these things with. All right, attendance policy again. You're expected, even though we're asynchronous, to check in to our course at least 5 days a week. Again, I don't require 7, but I'd like for you to be there with some regularity, certainly with posting and with responding. All right, this is basically, again, your syllabus components. Much of this you'll see because all this last part is going to be in every syllabus that you have, but I encourage you to pay attention to it. And always, get in touch with me if you have questions, if there's anything you want to talk about. You can access me right here, afdriver at ggc.edu. Again, if you want to set up anything in the way of a Zoom meeting, that's also the best place to start as well. All right. If you have questions about the syllabus or anything we're talking about, please let me know.